On day 43, I decided to build another stone quarry in the woodlands for even more cobblestone and gold, for I would need gold to make more dinosaur capturing equipment. Also, I found another stupendemous, so I decided to push this guy all the way into it, and well, it actually survived for some reason. Yeah. At night, the stone quarry was almost done, and yeah, we even found pieces of gold as well. On day 44, the excavation was finished, so I decided to go ahead and block it up with a bunch of cobblestone so that I wouldn't fall into it. Yeah, that stupendemous is just gonna stick in there forever. Yeah, good job. When I returned, I had a lot of loot, so I first decided to make a bunch of barrels and decided to build a small storage space for them inside the room, so yeah. I also decided to make an underground tunnel for the livestock so that the creatures from on the land wouldn't be able to get to them and kill them. On day 45, the construction was finished, so I decided to pop up 26 eggs, and I actually got 2 chickens out of it. Yeah, like, is this drop rate supposed to be this low? That night, I also began building another small dinosaur carrier, but this time I wouldn't use this dinosaur carrier to carry dinosaurs. My plan was to use these golden panels to transport the cows that I actually had over at my cow hole. The next morning, I decided to finally start testing it out, and yeah, surprisingly enough, it actually worked. So yep, I managed to capture all my cows that I left in the cow hole, and I was successfully transported them all the way into my tunnel. The next day was every Minecraft player's favorite occupation. Yes, inventory management for the entire day. Next day, I began working on my chickens, and I started breeding them. And I also started breeding cows as well, so that I would have a steady income of leather as well. I started off the day by using the gold that I found in the mines earlier to craft myself a bunch of mob captures. And yes, I headed to the village where I had accidentally triggered a raid. And I also began transporting all the villagers that were in the village to free them from the pillager attacks. I considered villagers as livestock since, you know, they aren't technically human, so I decided to build a small tunnel right next to the livestock tunnel to make a small villager tunnel. And yeah, by the next day, construction was finished, and I was finally able to place more villagers inside the tunnel. The next day, it was finally time. I wrapped my map, I jumped on the back of my Quetzalcoatlus, and I began mapping the entire island. I saw so many creatures that I have never seen before. I spent the entire day and night on the back of my Quetzalcoatlus, and by the night of the next day, the map was around 50% done, so I decided to first take a nap inside of this small savannah village. The next day, I also ran across against a bunch of tapioras that were actually flying around in the northern region, yeah. The map was now around 70% done, and yes, I honestly thought that this was enough of map making since, like, the other region I really wasn't keen on going through, so yeah, I just decided to call it a day. The next morning, I began looking for the more villagers inside the village so that I would be able to transport them all the way back to my base. Oh! No, 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 no. No, no, no! No! Oh, well, at least I got you back. And then, for the rest of the day, I spent flying around the entire island looking for villagers that I still needed for my collection and began kidnapping them. That night, I actually saw the full moon inside from my small hole in the base. Like, honestly, that was actually pretty legit awesome. Looking at the moon inspired me to build a dinosaur paddock inside my base, for I would need more space if I wanted to tame more dinosaurs and bring them inside my den, since if I leash them outside, they would easily get eaten by other dinosaurs. And exactly 5 days later, the construction was finally complete. I had an underground base, which kinda looked like a Zoid center, like that's kinda what I was aiming for. And yeah, it even had a second storage for the smaller dinosaurs, such as, Achillivator, Gallimimus, Dilophosaurus. And it also had a small visitor dome, or an observation center at least, to look at the bigger dinosaurs. But, however, I had used all my gold on saving the village and transporting the cattle, so I decided to build another mine to mine for more gold. This time I also decided to farm the small barrier blocks that surrounded the mine, for they actually made a pretty cool looking accessory to my building. On the next day, I killed a goose! I also found emeralds in this biome. I thought emeralds were supposed to be really rare, but yeah, apparently in these areas, like emeralds spawn really frequently. I also ran across a huge batch of gold, which will provide to be very useful for my dinosaur capturing experience. I also ran across against 2 huge batches of diamonds, but I didn't get them on camera. The next day, the mining was finished and I had almost a whole stack of iron and coal. And I also found 15 diamonds and 25 emeralds. Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy. And while I was sorting through the inventory, I also realized that we had over a stack of lapis lazuli, which meant that I should probably get to enchanting soon. The 15 diamonds, I began upgrading my gear. I had quite a big plan to use a sugarcane as to farm paper so that I could trade them for even more emeralds. So I decided to make a sugarcane farm, and yeah, I would need quite a bit of sugarcane to do that. I also saw a really cool looking Utah raptor attacking an ichthyosaur, so yeah, I wanted to tame it, but that would have to be put off for another date. The next 3 days were spent on my farm, and yes, I made a small greenhouse looking small structure. This would prevent the dinosaurs from stomping all over my crops. Remember guys when I told I had a bunch of lapis lazuli? I actually saw Luck of the Sea too, and I decided it would be a very smart idea if I decided to enchant my fishing rod with an enchantment table. And guess what I got? I got a pufferfish. And then I thought I'd go for another chance, and I got friggin' cod! Seriously, I had Luck of the Sea too, and I get 2 of the most common things? I really couldn't believe I spent 10 minutes of my life doing that. Also, I finally realized why the crops weren't growing in my world. The map that I was playing on actually had its tick speed set to 0, which meant that crops wouldn't grow. And yeah, I fixed it, and the crops were growing just fine. I decided to move my crop growing plot into a similar looking underground structure like my sugarcane farm. And boy was that difficult. I had worked with sandstone before, but digging in sand is something totally different, honestly. Like, sand is falling on you every single time, and it was so annoying. I also decided to grow bamboo that I actually found in a village, since bamboo seemed to be kinda rare and I wanted to make scaffolding. But the bamboo was growing, quite quicker than I imagined it to be.